Man has always had a deep desire to explore, but the sheer size of our planet means that not everything can be seen, and the places that have been seen haven't always been documented. There are regions of our planet so hostile, so cut off, or just big that even Google Maps cars won't go there. For example, would you like to know what these strange structures are, which have lain in the middle of the Siberian wastelands for nearly 2 centuries? Do you want to find out what a Turkish man stumbled upon when he was just fixing up his home? And would you like to explore the unspeakable horrors that lay beneath one of the world's most famous capital cities? If the answer is yes, and definitely not, then do it! Because now you're going to join me as we explore the 5 most mysterious secret structures on Earth. Number 5. The Cauldrons. The East Russian territory of Siberia is one of the most remote regions on Earth, which is why we know very little about it. In fact, the only thing that's been explored even less in Siberia is Vladimir Putin's feminine side. But in north-central Siberia, there have been reports about a strange series of strange objects which have baffled people for nearly 2 centuries. And there's very good reason why we know so little about it, but we'll come to that shortly. After trekking through hundreds of miles of frozen tundra, traversing the jagged peaks of the Ural Mountains, and fending off Siberian tigers and God knows what else, the last place you want to find yourself is somewhere called the Valley of Death. The locals refuse to go near this place anymore, and most just won't even talk about it. Those who do, I'm not sure why some would and some wouldn't, but they describe it as a dark, evil, and uninhabitable place. Apparently, I cannot say the word uninhabitable. But Comfort Inn doesn't have a Siberian franchise, so what is the mysterious structure which lies within? In 1854, Russian naturalist and geographer Richard Mach investigated the area and discovered several large metallic objects, almost like domes. Wow, that's kind of creepy. But with most of their structure submerged beneath the ground. Local hunters called them cauldrons, which makes them sound even creepier, and the only images available are illustrations drawn from local descriptions. Their existence has actually been confirmed by visitors to the site since the early 20th century, and they all describe dome-like objects measuring 20 to 30 feet in diameter with unnatural vegetation growing around them. This is getting pretty weird. Also, the structures were allegedly made by a metal that could not be chipped, broken, or in any way tarnished, even with heavy chisels. So it sounds like they tried pretty hard to damage these things. That sounds fun. The local Yakut tribe, which I guess is a Russian tribe of people, never heard of this thing, reported that anyone getting too close to the domes suffered some strange symptoms like loss of hair, dizziness, and unidentifiable skin conditions. I wonder if this happened more or less when they were trying to damage the things. Other reports say that the structures sometimes moved or sunk beneath the ground. Geez, that's creepy. Emitting ear-splitting noises followed by a choking stench. Ugh. It's that time again to insert a random gross singer joke. Who shall we choose this week? Alright, I've got it. So about those ear-splitting noises and choking stench, was Nicki Minaj in town? I'm just gonna stop there and move on. What happened in this remote part of Siberia that was causing these weird symptoms? Was this like the site of a toxic spill? Or perhaps a missile silo or a Soviet testing site? Because that would be pretty dubious. Atomic testing was known to have taken place there previously, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure 19th century Russians didn't have access to nuclear technology, or did they? Regardless, that begs the question, what is inside of these things that's causing this sickness? And why have I talked about them for so long? Well, there are a few brave souls who have ventured into the cauldrons, and they describe arches leading to spiral passageways and several metal chambers where, despite freezing temperatures on the surface, inside of them was as warm as a summer's day. God, this is weird. Local hunters who slept in these rooms on a regular basis later fell seriously ill. I'm not sure why they're sleeping in these places and naming them cauldrons. Those who stayed longer eventually died, allegedly. It's also pretty noticeable that animals refuse to go near these domes. So what are they? And what is their purpose? The locals have made wild accusations that they are in fact weapons put here by aliens to protect us. And every so often they shoot great fireballs into the sky to protect us. That would sound badass if that actually happened. Could, you never know. So have you ever heard of the Tunguska explosion of 1908? Okay, if you haven't, then you need to watch more YouTube videos, especially some of mine, because I mentioned it about 3 times. But whatever this thing was could be explained by whatever these things are. The locals probably look at airplanes and start praying to the metal sky dragon to spare their lives, so we should probably wait until actual scientists try to explore the area. However, unfortunately, they have already tried and failed. One expedition in 2010 was led by UFO researcher Ivan McCurl, who took a team of scientists to investigate. They apparently found 3 metal objects submerged under shallow waters, but before they could explore further, they too became violently ill. Let's hope they didn't try to sleep in them like the hunters. When the team returned home, they had no signs of illness, infection, or radiation poisoning. So, will we ever find out what these structures were for? Or are for? Perhaps. Another team led by Michael Vysok, all these Russian names are really hard to pronounce, in 2013 found the same metallic objects as Ivan McCurl's exploration, but this time nobody got sick. Interesting. They plan to return in the future with a diamond drill. They're going hardcore. And maybe then we'll find out once and for all what these mysterious cauldrons are, who put them there, and why. Or they'll drill into the things, nothing will happen, and then they'll die. Number 4. Finally, secret pyramids. Archaeologists frequently discover new mysterious rooms in the Egyptian pyramids by using ground-penetrating radar systems. Pretty cool, right? But recent technology has been used to uncover something even more fascinating. Entire settlements of undiscovered ancient pyramids. Underground, apparently. You'd think that giant pyramids would be hard to miss, but these monuments have been long since destroyed. In 2011, more than 1,000 tombs and 3,000 ancient settlements were stumbled upon using infrared satellite imagery provided by NASA. Project was led by Egyptologist and space archaeologist Dr. Sarah Parkak. They began analyzing images taken from satellites orbiting 700 kilometers above the Earth. After excavating some of the more promising sites, Parkak's team uncovered what they believed to be the remains of 17 pyramids near the ancient city of Sa el-Hagar. Sa el-Hagar. I just like to say that. Even more secret pyramids were then uncovered in 2013 by an amateur satellite archaeologist, Angela Cole. How amateur? Well, her only equipment was a laptop and Google Earth. Pretty badass. She hadn't even set foot in Egypt. If Google Earth had been around in the 80s, Indiana Jones would have really sucked hard. When Angela McCall found unusual patterns and strangely geometric mounds of earth in the Egyptian desert, she believed these could be the remains of even more undiscovered Egyptian structures. Many geologists dismissed her findings, but when a former Egyptian ambassador contacted McCall and provided old maps and documents, she had reliable evidence to support the existence of the lost pyramids. After this revelation, local people tried to excavate one of the sites themselves, but they had to stop when they hit solid rock, which they believed to be granite, which is one of the most commonly used materials in pyramid building. Metal detectors were used on the site and signaled the presence of a metal beneath the surface, and also a secret underground tunnel heading north. Yes, more secret tunnels. This site is still to be fully explored, but even when they do, this could still just be the first of many undiscovered pyramids waiting for us in Egypt. And who knows? For all you cat lovers out there that I hate, there could be more giant sphinxes too. Number 3! Darren Kuyu. In 1963, a Turkish man in the province of Nevşehir was doing a little DIY in his home when he decided to knock down an interior wall. Brick wall was extremely old, so he picked up a sledgehammer and tore through the structure with ease. Well, that's what I would do. Then, he dropped his hammer in astonishment, because that's what you do when you find a secret room inside your house you've been living in. But this was only the beginning, because when he delved deeper, he uncovered a tunnel which led to more rooms, and more tunnels, and more rooms, and more tunnels, and shafts, and wells, and a whole freaking underground world. Basically, this guy just got a massive basement all of a sudden. But what this guy really had just done was uncover the ancient subterranean city of Derinkuyu, all whilst doing a little home improvement. I'd still bet his wife was still pissed that he didn't put up those shelves. When Derinkuyu was fully explored, they found it had been carved straight out of the rock itself. That's hardcore. You can't usually carbon date stone, so we have no idea how old this city is, but estimates place its construction between the 7th and 8th centuries BC. That's a long time ago, making them nearly 3 millennia old. You might get excited when you find an old family heirloom in your basement that's worth a few dollars, but this guy found a whole city that's older than Jesus. Derinkuyu could accommodate as many as 20,000 people and had everything a city would need, including stables, cellars, wine presses, and even a church. However, even though these tunnels were rediscovered in the 1960s, there was evidence they had been used and forgotten about by several different generations over the course of history to escape various wars, with the most recent occurring in 1909 as locals tried to escape from the butchery of the marauding Ottoman Turks. I hate those guys. Now, this vast network of tunnels and caves isn't the only underground city in the world. Heck, it's not even the only one in Turkey. And Derinkuyu actually connects to another hidden network in Kemikali. Anyways, at its deepest, Kemikali only drops around 60 meters down at its lowest point. Yeah, we only use the metric system on this channel. Over half the tunnels have been made accessible to tourists, so if any of my, dare I say awesome, subscribers have visited this place, feel free to share your stories in the comments below. As long as you didn't do anything non-G-rated in those tunnels, and if you did, then just message me the details in private. The awesome part of this story, as if there isn't enough, is that archaeologists who have found so far 6 of these underground cities believe that Turkey could contain as many as 100 more undiscovered subterranean hideouts. So if any of my subscribers are from Turkey, you might want to get started on some of that DIY on your home and find out. Number 2, Yonaguni-jima. Off the coast of southern Japan, not too far from Okinawa, lies the beautiful island of Yonaguni-jima. The island is home to 1,700 people, but I'm not sure why that really matters, because the really cool stuff is 25 meters below sea level. In 1986, a diver was exploring an area of rock formations off the southernmost point of the island when he started to notice that his environment looked weirdly uniform. Instead of rounded rocks and caves weathered naturally by ocean, the diver saw steps, structures, terraces, and ramps. Well, you've obviously got to have ramps, because underwater kingdoms need wheelchair access. Predictably, though, this discovery was named Japan's Atlantis. But with this type of name, I'm not sure why China didn't discover it. Regardless, though, the scientific community is split on whether these structures formed naturally or they were made by ancient man. One of the largest structures found near Yonaguni-jima is a pyramid over 100 meters wide and 30 meters high, with 5 separate levels and what appears to be some kind of road encompassing the structure. Combine that information with the tool marks and carvings discovered on some of the stones, and you start to wonder a little bit whether fish have started getting really creative, or if this was actually part of an ancient Japanese city lost to the ocean, which sounds like an anime. The residents of Okinawa used to pass on stories of this settlement to their children, and until this discovery, most people believed them to be a myth, because it is pretty crazy story. But now, several scientists are pretty convinced that the history books need a rewrite. Misaki Kimura is a marine biologist who has studied the area for 15 years, and she believes an earthquake 2,000 years ago sunk this city, which could be as old as 5,000 years. This sounds plausible, as Japan does love earthquakes even more than Germany loves tiny leather shorts, or the French love to surrender, and that's a lot. An earthquake actually hit the area in 1998, and large parts of the island itself were damaged in that event. Professor Tanuki Iishi of the University of Tokyo has an even more fascinating theory. He estimates that this area of land was submerged during the last ice age around 10,000 years ago. And if that's true, then these pyramids would be twice as old as those in Egypt, and evidence of an advanced ancient Eastern civilization the history books have absolutely no knowledge of, meaning you just learned something on my channel you didn't learn in school. Number 1, the second city of Paris. Paris is a beautiful city filled with 12 million equally beautiful, but usually rude, and likely to surrender because they're in France type people. But did you know there are another 6 million inhabitants and an elaborate network of tunnels below the surface of this iconic city? They're actually even ruder than the people on the surface, but they've already surrendered. Because if you try to have a conversation with them, they won't even bother to respond. No, I'm not being stereotypical this time. It's because they're probably all dead. Known as the catacombs of Paris, there's a huge network of underground tunnels, more underground tunnels, yes, beneath the French capital, some of which date back as far as Roman rule, with the remaining excavations being made between the 13th and 18th centuries. You don't care about those dates though. The original purpose was to extract building materials to construct the city on the surface. But in the 1700s, the French, due to a bad habit that they have, that you probably already know of, had the kind of problem only my serial killer subscribers could identify with. Well, I just sealed my deathbed. Too many dead people. Parisian cemeteries were overflowing with more decomposed looking humans than you'd find shopping at Target. So the city decided to turn these tunnels into a giant underground grave. Let's make the entire city creepy, they said in French. It took them more than 60 years to move every single body from the city's cemeteries to the catacombs. Wow, that must have been a fun job. And 7 years later, the public was allowed to visit this awesome place. And so can you, today, if you're in France or nearby. The bones of these people are arranged in various ways throughout the catacombs. In some places, you'll see leg bones arranged in beautiful patterns. In others, you'll see strange pillars topped with skulls. And in some parts, there are literal seas of skeletons that you have to walk over, with no way of knowing how deep the bones go. I guess all the workers just got tired of moving bodies for 60 years and decided to start doing fun stuff. The catacombs themselves stretch over 300 kilometers, and if you don't know how big that is, it's just really big. But only a small fraction of this is open to visit because the rest of this underground goth kid's paradise has been shut off to the public, kind of. There are many people who skip the tour guide and run off into the deep, dark caverns of this ancient boneyard. I'm not sure I'd do that, but if I did, I would be labeled as a cataphile, which is not like a necrophile, but is a label given to any explorers who venture off like this. And with 300 of these explorers heading into the catacombs illegally each week, it's no surprise that several people have actually gone missing here. That's okay because we don't have to bury them again. It is speculated that some may have ventured deep within the catacombs to form a new life. Whoa. Much like the tunnel people of Los Angeles or Las Vegas. And if one recent discovery is anything to go by, it seems some of these people might be hipsters. Just a short walk from the regular tour route, French police discovered one of the more easily accessible caverns had been fitted with a working cinema, complete with seats, a restaurant, and a fully stocked bar. Mostly wine, because it's France. Would you watch horror movies in a 300-year-old underground graveyard? Would you venture even deeper into the darkness? No, you probably wouldn't. But what if I told you that the Nazis established a secret underground bunker which used part of the catacombs during the Second World War? Maybe they're still down there. Maybe Nazi zombies are still down there. Or maybe someone else is hiding down there. And maybe this someone else invented a bunch of secret Nazi superweapons, which I explain in a video here. Go watch it. Making predictions is something we are all constantly doing every day, all day. They are our attempts to peek into the future and thus gain more control over reality. We recognize patterns around us, and then our brain overconfidently tells us that this or that is going to happen. But if you really analyze these predictions, you'll find that they're usually wrong. But then why is our brain constantly, overconfidently, and incorrectly trying to tell us the future? It's like our brain is trying to access a resource it knows is there, but something isn't letting it. Across time, there are people who seem to have accessed whatever this may be, whether they knew it or not, such as a Serbian peasant from the 1800s, whom, among other things, predicted what you're doing right now. And there's no cliche Nostradamus stuff here, but instead, things like the, quote, Japanese attacking from the air and